Yo, what's going on, guys? This is going to be my Stamina Necro build. We're running 64 points into Stamina, so we get that Chris 30k max health, 15k Magicka, and 30,000 max Stamina. Our 600 Magic recovery, 1200 Stamina recovery, and 5200 weapon damage, 22k resistances with 1700 crit. We're rocking the Warrior on this build. I recommend running the Warrior. You can run Lady if you want to be tanky, but you really don't need it. Warrior for the extra damage. Takeaway Broth. For our food, this gives us max health and stamina. We don't need the extra magic recovery on this setup, so I'd recommend just going this for most damage and good stam sustain. Vampire Stage 3, it's broken. What else can I say? We're also been running Imperial. I recommend Imperial because it gives us a bunch of sustain on our both magic and stamina skills. But you could go Nord if you want to be tankier, or if you want a bit more damage. You might hurt in the sustain department. I'm not too sure. Didn't test that. But I definitely recommend Imperial with this setup. I think it's the best. Fully buffed up, we're rocking 5,500 weapon damage, 26% crit, 30k resistance on the front bar, and 30k resistance on the back bar. 1,200 stamina recovery, 2,700 stamina recovery, with 1,400 magic recovery, and 26% crit. Alright, onto our skills here, running Battleground. I chose Battleground because it gives us the most damage, and we don't need anything else really in our monster set but damage on this setup, so I recommend running Battleground with nothing else. Could go Engine Guardian. Magnum's not good because of the vigor changes, so I recommend running Battleground. Running One Piece Trainee, this extra slot here. Wretched Vitality on our back bar here. This is the sustain set. This set gives us so much sustain, it's crazy. It's definitely, I think, overtuned. This set gives us over 500 recoveries in both pools, and it's very easy to proc, especially on a certain board, where all you gotta do is pierce them, and you get all that massive recovery. And then our front bar set will be Way of the Fire. I ran this set because it gives us most damage, and Necro, in my opinion, is lacking damage. And then running all infused weapon damage glyphs with the Mark and Ring. You could run Malakath here, but I think Markin's just best, and it goes weapon and spell damage, and armor to get us a little bit extra tanky. We're running all reinforced on our heavy pieces. Our heavy pieces are shoulder, helmet, chest, and legs. And then impen on our hands, waist, and boots. These are all medium, all prismatic glyphs. I'm running a sturdy shield with max stam, powered on a sword. I think powered is just the best thing to run, especially with how strong vigor is. This just amplifies that with the weapon damage glyph. And then we're running shock on our front bar here with sharpen for the most damage. I tried to run elk on this with the setup differently changed up, and I just found when I tried to run elk that it felt like my sustain wasn't that good, and I was barely getting more damage. So I just went with Wretched Vitality, where you have infinite sustain. Your damage is still really high, and you don't have that damage up for only 20 seconds. So I don't like elk really. You could try it. You have to switch up the build quite a bit to get the sustain you need, but I don't think you need it because Wretched Vitality just gives you too much sustain basically for a set, where you can basically put everything else into pure damage. This is your only sustain thing that you need, and I think this is the best set in the game right now, or one of the best sets in the game right now. I think this is very strong, and I think you should be running this on pretty much almost every setup, except for a few different builds. For our skills, we're going to be running the Executioner, Rally, Blast Bones, Dizzy Swing, Race Against Time, and Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Now, you could run the Magicka version of this if you want to do more damage. Totally up to you. That's totally preference. But I just chose this because the Defile and 16% healing received is pretty big on their sustain, which is very nice. Dizzy, very good. Race Against Time. This is your flex spot for your build, by the way. You can run Boneyard here if you want to, like a bigger AoE skill, but I just rather have this to get out of sticky situations, plus the major exposition, which is very nice. On our back here, running Resistance Flesh, Pierce Armor. This is what procs our Wretched Vitality, Resolving Vigor, Spirit Guardian, and Beckoning Armor. I love Beckoning Armor. It's one of my personal favorite skills on a Necro. You can run the other morph, but this just gives you so much survivability in open world, and even in Battleground or anything like that, because it just makes people who are attacking you get CC'd, and makes them spend their 5,000 stamina to break free, and if they're attacking from range, they'll just keep CCing them off cooldown, which gives you a lot of extra time to heal and survive and kite. For our ult here, we're running Temporal Guard. This gives us minus protection. You could run the Sword and Shield art, totally personal preference, totally up to you. If you don't run Spirit Guardian, by the way, you could run Skeleton Archer for extra damage. I just have to run this to get this passive right here, the Undead passive. So whenever we have a summon up Blast Bone Skeleton Mage, we get 200 Magicka, health, and stamina recovery. So that's why I run this, for that reason pretty much alone. It costs a chunky bit of Magicka, and also gives us 10% damage reduction, which is very nice. Once again, for races, I recommend an Imperial for the 6% damage, reduced cost on your abilities. Super strong. I think it's pretty much a must. It just gives you, Imperial gives you too much for the race, for the setup in my opinion, so I think it's best in slot. But once again, you could run Orc or Nord if you want to. Onto our CP. For our CP here, we're going to be running Binding Aura, Exploiter, Master at Arms, and Deadly Aim. Exploiter procs off our Dizzy Swing here. So when we hit someone Dizzy, they'll take 10% extra damage from us. Binding Aura, more damage with AoE, so it's our Blast Bone Dawnbreaker. Master Arm, more damage with direct damage, so this is our auto attack, flame, our Way of the Fire, and our Execute, and then Deadly Aim. This gives us more damage for pretty much all our abilities. And the reason why we're running this is because since we're running Spearmender, which gives us 10% damage reduction, I don't think we need to run any damage reduction in our blue tree. Just full damage, baby, because Necros, in my opinion, struggle the most with damage over any other class. Not over any class, but in general, their class suffers by not having enough damage to kill people. They have plenty of sustain and survivability, they just need that damage. In the red tree, I recommend running Pain Refuge, Sustain by Suffering, Fortify, and Survival Instinct. These are just the 4 best red CP abilities you can run in the game, in my opinion, and I recommend running this on majority of your builds. For our green tree, if you want to run Gifted Rider, War Mount, Rationer, and Liquid Efficiency is what I recommend running. I recommend also getting all your, your past like Hero's Vigor and stuff. All like that's very important as well. Precision and all that, make sure you get all that good stuff. Alright, so the way you want to play this build is pretty straightforward. You always want to make sure Piercing is up since it gives us our sustain and a bunch of extra damage since we're reducing their armor by 9k, which is a lot of extra damage. Then you just want to summon Blast Bone off cooldown, auto attack, and spam Dizzy. That's pretty much the gist of the build. Not too complex. And then after you poke them a while and there's circles coming up or their CC is coming up, that's when you look for the Dawnbreaker and you just go in for the medium weave, execute, and you just kill them. Since we're running Battleground PvP, Dawnbreaker gives us a bunch of extra pressure, which will sometimes catch people off guard and help us result in that juicy kill. If you did find this build helpful, it would mean a lot to me. Hit that like button and subscribe. And with that, I hope you guys did enjoy the video.